drop shot is one of the most effective shots on court. From mixing up the pace to moving your opponent to just making them give up on shots. You see it on all levels of the game, from recreational all the way up to the pro level. In this video, I'm going to be helping you guys tackle why your drop shot is working or why it might not be working. Let's get into it. So there are three things that go into making a good drop shot. One is timing, two is placement, and three is disguise. You can kind of sometimes get away with the third one depending on your level, but the first two are things that have to be there. The timing of it is going to depend on at what point in the point you are, meaning are you on offense or defense? Are you running the person around? Are you in good court position? The placement is going to basically mean the location that you aim your drop shot, and then disguise means how much did the person on the other side of the net see it coming. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of players on tour as well as recreational players will make is they'll show the drop shot coming a little too early. So you'll see them running up and they've been holding their racket like this the whole day, and they run up and their racket looks like this. It kind of gives a little bit of a hint that you might be using a drop shot, so the person's already ready to run. So we're going to tackle those three things here. The main thing I want to get into first is what makes a good drop shot, meaning technical. A lot of people feel like their drop shot needs to be hit low because the bounces will be low. The problem is, as you can see from this overlay video, the problem is that when you hit a low drop shot, even if it's perfect, the trajectory of the ball is linear. So because the ball shot is linear, your distance between your first bounce and your second bounce is low. Your distance between your first bounce and your second bounce is farther away. Yeah, your ball's bouncing low, but at the same time, it's traveling further. Whereas if you look at this one, when I hit the drop shot higher, even though there's more time on it, the distance between the first bounce and the second bounce is a lot closer. And that's going to make the opponent have to run an extra 2, 3, 4 steps, depending on where they're coming from. So make sure that when we go through these different things, you give yourself the idea that your drop shot needs to be a little higher so you can get those first and second bounces to be closer together, thus making your opponent have to run more. So when we look at timing for the drop shot, what I mean is at what point in the point you decide that you're going to be using the drop shot, not necessarily the timing of the shot itself. What I mean when I say when you're going to use it, your opponent has to respect your ability to step into the court and put a ball away like this. Now, obviously, I'm not hitting it super hard, but your opponent has to respect your ability to finish a point with a dominant shot, like a hard shot down the line or an angle cross court, whatever it is that you want to work on. But once you've made your opponent respect this shot, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to start backing up to give themselves time to react. So once my opponent feels like most of the time I'm going to be doing that, that's going to open up my ability to take a shot like that. Timing it means that your opponent has to have seen this so many times that their first reaction is to back up. And then once you've backed them up by them seeing this shot here, that's when you go for the changeup. So timing it means you might not use the drop shot for the first game or two because you have to have them respecting this shot that you have. And then once they've respected what you're doing and decided that they're going to stay way back there, now you have the person back there and the timing of the point matters. So you time it when you set it up for them to have to respect this, and then you switch to this one. Timing is super easy. Just don't overuse the drop shot. Pick a good time, use it, then put it back in the bag, put it away for a while, come back to it when they start respecting the power again. And you don't have to be a super hard hitter. It's just you have to make them think that they need to be in the back of the court. If they feel like they need to be in the back of the court, the distance between where they are and where they'll need to be when you hit the drop shot is going to be further. But if you're always throwing in the drop shot, then the timing of it goes away. So the person's always going to be leaning in when they see you hitting a drop shot, see you coming in for a shorter shot, versus respecting your ability to hit this ball and then making them have to travel probably an extra 10 to 15 feet, depending on how good your approach shots are. So let's move on to part two, which is how to actually locate your shot. So I'm going to use this overlay diagram to show you guys how simple it is to aim your drop shots. If you can see here, most people think that the best place to hit a drop shot is the farthest distance. So if you hit your drop shot on the do side, the person should be standing on the ad side, and vice versa. But you'd be surprised to know that if you do this correctly, you can hit your drop shot on the same side as the person, and it will actually be the longest distance they'll have to run. Here's how that works. Using the person's momentum against them, if you hit a good shot that pins a person to a corner, like hitting your approach shot cross court or down the line, they're obviously going to feel like the next shot is most likely to go to the open court. And if they feel like that, what's going to happen is they're going to try to take off, really pushing themselves into that open court as fast as possible. If you put the drop shot on the same side as them, they're then going to have to take that momentum, get rid of it, make another turn, and have to run back towards the same side. That's where you'll see a lot of drop shots that people actually give up and don't run for because they've already committed to going somewhere else. So now that you see it on paper, here's how it would look realistically on the court. I'm going to use the ball machine again. So using the ball machine as an example, I would come in, whatever my level is, and I'd hit my first shot that way. My opponent would be running that way, and most people would think I should hit the drop shot on that side. That's a good drop shot. They'll probably still not get it, but they'll be on their way moving that way. So if I hit my first shot over there, as they're taking that run that direction, I drop it back over there. Their momentum would make it so that they have to really hit the brakes hard. And if you take it at full speed, it would be there and then there. Oh, that would have been so good. So full speed, you got your approach shot, and then you get set, and you put it in the same side that they're on. What ends up happening, as I said before, is you have a person that would be there. They'd run all the way to this side, or at least that's how they'd feel they need to do. But they'd be standing here, and they'd have to run and then make a full turn and then come back into this zone here, which makes a way bigger distance and a way more complicated run because they can't actually go at full speed because they're trying to turn at the same time. That would make it way more effective, and in most cases you'll see the person actually give up for that shot. If you can make them give up for the drop shot, you don't even have to worry about how good their next shot is. So again, time it so that you've hit the ball to the same side as them, but your shot has to be good enough that they're committing to the open court. If you're hitting your short balls closer to the middle, this tactic won't work, and then your drop shot actually has to be a lot better. But when you're really opening up the court, you make people have to commit to certain directions. So let's get into the last one. So for our last part, we're going to go into disguise. Now, disguise kind of goes into the first one where we talked about timing, making the person think you're going to do one thing and then the other. But disguise is actually going to be selling this part and then changing into the continental grip or changing into whatever technique works for you for hitting the drop shot. But the goal is make the person think that the big shot is coming and then change. So for our little exercise, just to give you guys kind of a practice thing, I want you to try to guess which one you think I'm going to hit as a drop shot. And I'll do like 3 or 4. So my hands are set to hit the shot as a forehand, and I'm just going to be taking that swing. Set up to hit the forehand, taking the swing. Set up to hit the forehand, and then dropping it. So you're trying to make the person respect this and then see that. But you have to wait really long, otherwise the person will start making that move really early. So by setting up to hit this shot, my opponent has to stay in the back of the court longer because there's very little chance that I would do this and tap the ball. But by setting up here and then changing and going to the drop shot, I've made my opponent have to stay in the back of the court versus a lot of people will decide they're going to hit a drop shot and run up to the ball like this. And now you've given that person a head start on knowing that that shot's coming. So what I want you guys to do, if you have a ball machine or a practice partner or anything, just practice going from here to here. Forehand grip, continental grip, forehand grip, continental grip. Same thing on the backhand. Backhand grip. You have a head start on the backhand because you actually, if you have 2 hands, you're already in the right grip. So you would just set up here and then take your hand off. The practice that you need to be doing is seeing how long you can hold this effectively without messing up your shot. If you're holding it too long, then you end up in a position where you compromise the ability to hit the drop shot. But if you're actually timing it perfectly with your own skill, then you'll be able to make the person respect your ability to hit the shot and still hit an effective drop shot. That's going to wrap this up, guys. Again, not super complicated. I just wanted to give you guys a little tool to work on today. Go out, practice it, add it to your repertoire, and hopefully soon you'll look like Carlos Alcaraz and the rest of those guys who are just making people look very goofy on court with how good some of those drop shots are. If you know anybody who would benefit from this, please send it off to them, but we'll see you guys in